bunch. Got senior side.
I guess you're a
have.
senior.
Well, hey, you're taking the project course with me.
Yep. Is that do we have to do something related to CUW?
I decide usually at the time of the course. Not necessarily. I mean, if you have another project in mind, we can work that out. But it has to be a complex enough project to be worthy of an entire semester-long project.
Okay.
So, imagine if you had a homework assignment and the homework assignment was designed to take 15 weeks to finish. That's the scope of the project.
So like a scheme function.
A scheme function, a single scheme function.
Yeah.
You wouldn't get it done in 15 weeks.
Yeah.
Well, it sucks because when I try to Google it, Google's just like,
Really?
pretty much. I mean, unless you go to like Dr. Wackett's site, that's the only thing that has something. Everything else is just like.
Oh yeah, I mean 170.
Would you get the book?
Oh, you have 175.
You like wonder why you suck at it. I don't even
I'm
have
trying
to.
to look at the book, and the book doesn't help.
But you don't even have the
There's
book.
just more big words.
It's a virtual book. It's like,
Oh, so you have the virtual
I
book.
think I have it on here somewhere.
You think? Hey, I just don't know why I'm struggling with this class.
Yeah, that's my class.
I don't have the book.
Well, they wouldn't say that.
Don't have Google, I don't have anything.
I am taking that next year.
Okay. So, all right, shut up. Let me. All right, so we were talking about read-write speeds, cloud stuff last time, right?
Yep.
So I think we kind of ended class. I asked the question, could we pull off something like iDrive today? iDrive. Could we?
Internet speeds are faster.
Okay, so
It wouldn't be such
what types of things would iDrive work well for? Give me some examples of cloud usage that iDrive would work well for. And what things wouldn't it work well for? What kind of stuff do you store in Dropbox?
homework assignments.
Okay, and what are those Word documents?
Yeah, like Word docs.
Things like that. How big are those files? Small?
Small.
Okay. Would something like iDrive, as long as you're connected to the internet, work fine for something like that? Because the length of time it takes to upload that to the cloud, we saw last time, is like less than a second, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But what other things might you store in Dropbox? Let's say you weren't tethered to the 2 gigabyte limit. What are things that are on your computer that you would not want to lose if your computer exploded?
You can back up all your files, so there's not a limit.
Okay, well, but you probably wouldn't do all the files, because some of them, like Windows, you just reinstall or something like that. But certainly if you have, a 10 gigabyte MP3 collection or something like that, why not throw it in there, right? To throw it into something like iDrive, where the actual the destination you're writing to is a remote drive, would have a different, would semantically be different than writing it to your Dropbox folder, which then syncs to the cloud. So let's just say you have a big file. Let's say you have a 700 megabyte file, and you drag that into your iDrive folder. So at that point, you're literally writing directly to the cloud. It's like FTP. Okay, remember the little dog guy we had running last time that pissed Dane off? Somebody killed the dog. All right, so the idea would be that if we're writing something to the cloud directly, and we decide we need to leave, we need to close the laptop and go, we're going to have to start that over later, right? Where if we have something stored locally, it would have to depend on how how that technology was written. But the way Dropbox works is we throw something into the Dropbox folder, and then you have an application that just checks that folder over and over again and sees what haven't I synced to the cloud, and where did I last leave off. So if I have a big file, like lately I've been running out of quota with Vimeo for uploading our videos and things like that. So now as like my backup plan, I threw them into a folder on my Dropbox just so I would be able to give a link on Angel to the videos, like just in case you don't find it on Vimeo, it is in this folder until I can get it uploaded. I'm actually experimenting with YouTube. Historically, YouTube had a 15-minute video limit for like the length of video you can upload. And when they changed that, but now with an authorized account, you can upload unlimited videos of unlimited length. So why am I paying for Vimeo?
So then creeper random people could watch your
Do I care?
podcast.
It's like, okay, you're stumbling on a 470 lecture. It's like, creep away. And I make all the Vimeo videos public anyways. Oh, I didn't even think about that. That's probably true. It's brought to you by Nabisco. Go with the host with the most. Oh, this is kind of a funny related thing. In 250 yesterday, we had a bunch of people dressed up. There was one guy wearing a gorilla costume, another guy wearing a Batman costume. And it came up at some point where I was like, I was always wondering, does Batman actually go to the bathroom? Like, what if he's in the middle of saving the world and he, diarrhea hits? Does he like run to the target like, where's the bathroom? But what's funny is I was testing this YouTube thing and I was uploading from 2 different browsers. Because like one of them allowed it to auto, like pick up where it left off. The other one, like you had to finish it all at once. And then I tested the video. So in Safari, I had a YouTube video playing, but I forgot it was playing. And then I started playing one in Chrome after it uploaded to test it. I had my wife come over and like, let me know, is the picture clear and everything like that? Can you see the code? And the topic I was discussing, one of them was my grad course I teach in the evenings, which is basically 250. It's like, intermediate programming. And also the 250 class was the other video. So I was talking about very similar topics. But you heard me speaking like layered over myself. And we're thinking like something screwed up with the encoding or something like that. So I'm like in the middle of like telling Batman jokes while I'm also like explaining like a legitimate computer science concept. I told my wife, I told you I was good at multitasking. And then we figured out what was going on. It's like, man, this new video recorder's not encoding right. All right, so punchline is we could very well pull off something like iDrive today. Question is there an advantage to iDrive over Dropbox? We talked about this a little bit last time. The big deal with Dropbox is you have to use up your own hard drive space for that folder instead of storing stuff directly into the cloud. So now you're taking up a portion of your hard drive, which is becoming a bigger and bigger issue. The whole idea of computing is this constant balancing act. As our hard drives are getting faster and faster through the solid state, our hard drives are starting to get smaller and smaller. Well, not smaller and smaller, but they took a 5-fold step backwards in size. We were at a 3 terabyte hard drive, and then all of a sudden you have machines coming with 128 or 256 gigabytes of solid state drive. And to upgrade, for instance, I think the new MacBook Pros, if you want to put a 1 terabyte solid state drive in there, you tack on like $1,000. So, it's for a 1 terabyte drive, where a 1 terabyte mechanical drive isn't anywhere near that price. So it's probably what the stock drive is on that machine. So we have this constant balancing act where, if you have 2 gigabytes of Dropbox space, no big deal, right? We don't think of 2 gigabytes as being that much storage anymore. So if you're just putting all your homework stuff in there for an entire college career, is 2 gigabytes enough?
Oh,
Yeah, I think that's enough. Especially when you don't do your homework.
Unless it's 470 at that point.
No, Scheme is concise. Very few bits. The size of those files. I mean, the thing we wrote yesterday was fairly complicated. I bet you that file was like, maybe like 2 kilobytes.
start adding those parentheses.
They compress those right out. A non-issue. I assume you finished the homework already? That was an easy assignment. Did you do it? Well, it wasn't hard, was it? See, she just called you stupid.
I don't have any time.
Okay, let's say you had time.
No, I wouldn't.
Look, I'm not a liar.
I'm gonna sit down. I'm gonna look at it. And I'm gonna throw some stuff at it.
Why don't you like work with somebody else from class that like kind of gets the stuff, like not Skippy?
I don't have a lot of time. I have to commute here. That's a 35-minute commute.
Oh my God, where do you live?
Colgate.
Who?
Germantown.
Okay.
Like,
I know.
side of
Germantown's like the worst place to live
Why?
because there's no fast roads that go there. That's what I mean. You know, like it's distance-wise, it's not that far from here. But it's all like through, you know, you have 400 stoplights.
Yeah, you can find ways around it.
Well, sure. But you don't have like, it's not along 94 or 43. So you don't have fast roads that get you there. Safely.
You can take Highland the entire way down.
Take Highland and you just step on it.
You can go 65 easy.
I mean, if it's not during like the time when people are commuting to work, I mean, those stop signs are optional.
Always optional.
And usually, I mean, especially when it's not crop season, you can see if somebody's coming. Or you do the old, I live in the sticks thing for driving in cornfields at night where you just turn off your headlights and see if you see lights coming the other direction. That's not safe, by the way.
That is fun.
Until the time it doesn't work out.
So you hit a deer.
Mm-mm. I had my high school, my girlfriend in high school, her younger brother, and a kid that lived down the street from me, who I remember when he was in diapers, they did that. They died. I mean, it was like a horrible, horrible accident. They got hit by like a semi or something like that, go other direction. But I agree. I mean, it's funny most of the time. but when it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Is the punchline. So at least you're being safer because there's only like churches along Highland, right?
Well, I mean, there's a school.
Like
But I only
what is it, like
I only
elementary?
ride to school, yeah.
So I mean, how much can they weigh?
They're out of-
It would do
they're
more
out of-
more damage if you hit a deer, right?
Yeah.
I mean, might not even feel a third grader.
You don't.
Ay. Okay, so now let me ask you this question. Does anything change as far as file systems go if they're in the cloud? Let's go back and think about the concept we're talking around here dealing with file systems. What is a file system? What's the purpose of it? Purpose of a hard drive is to store
Keep
files.
track of where the files are.
Organize files.
Organize.
Organize files. Okay, so file systems organize files. Do we need to organize files differently in the cloud? What do you think is different? Let's say you worked at Dropbox. You were, whatever, in charge of the Dropbox storage hard drive thingy stuff. What do you think is different when you're managing something like that versus managing your 3 terabyte external hard drive at home? So your local data store thing versus Dropbox.
Well, being able to allow people to partition off like 2 gigs each time they.
Okay. So right. Well, so the end user isn't doing it, but somehow there's a quota, right? How does that work? How do you think quotas work? How big are the hard drives at Dropbox?
Huge.
Take a guess. How big do you think a single hard drive is at Dropbox?
How big is yours? So you have a Dropbox, so how big is yours?
No, a single hard drive. Because all storage, as far as we're concerned, data is stored on hard drives, right? Might be solid state, might be mechanical drive, but data stored on a hard drive. So I have 3 terabytes of data storage, but there's some people who have more than that. If you have because I have a team of like 20 guys. So the more guys you have that you're paying the $130 a year for a license, the more storage they keep giving you. So let's say you had a team of 100. I mean, you might be at 50 terabytes or more, you know. But how big do you think a individual hard drive is at Dropbox? Huh?
No clue.
Well, you just said something. Say what you said.
Terabyte, I don't
Terabyte,
know.
possibly. Are the hard drives they're using significant? I mean, are they different than the hard drives we as consumers use? Maybe they're the more industrial ones, you know, stress tested for more read writes, things like that. But capacity-wise, they might actually be smaller. Sometimes when you get to the higher performance drives and things like that, you lose some capacity because they run hotter and things like that. So maybe they are 1 terabyte drives or 2 terabyte drives or even maybe 768 gigabyte drives, something like that. So the drives themselves aren't like scary, you know, huge capacity. But now I'm a single user with 3 terabytes of space. How many of you have Dropbox? Hopefully every one of you in here have Dropbox. Okay? Okay, and we all, most of you are using the free 2 gigabytes?
Yep.
Yeah, which for 99% of people, that works fine. That's perfectly acceptable, right? Okay, so for, there's what, 6 of you? So
Yep.
that's 12 gigabytes of space that they're handing out for free. That doesn't seem like a great business model. Okay. Now, are your files on the same drive that my files are on? Maybe. Skippy, are your files on the same hard drive as Voltage's?
Could be.
Absolutely could be. How many hard drives does Dropbox have?
A lot.
How many users does Dropbox have? It'd be, I mean, we'd be just making a guess, but probably thousands of users, right? Especially when you have a product that's free for, you know, the common use. So they probably have thousands and thousands of users. So let's say they have 1,000 users. What's the minimum amount of space that Dropbox must have? They have 1,000 users.
2,000.
1,000 users. They have to have 2,000 gigabytes of storage space. Now, let's just say you were only a free shop. So let's say you were inventing, you know, your own competitor with Dropbox. You know, it's like, okay, well, Dropbox, they have to be making bank. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up with a competitor to Dropbox. And instead of giving people 2 gigabytes free, I'm going to give them 3 gigabytes free. I think doesn't Boxy give you 5 gigabytes free? Yeah, but whatever. We're going to give you 3 gigabytes free. So actually, now I need 3,000 gigabytes, right? So you just opened your own company, and you initially have you want to be set up so you can support 1,000 users day one. So you need to get 3,000 gigabytes of storage. Well, how do you get 3,000 gigabytes of storage today? What's the biggest hard drives that are out there? 3 terabyte drives. Okay, so 3,000 divided by 1,024 is 2.92 terabytes. So we can actually support 1,000 users on a single 3 terabyte drive. That's pretty legit, right? Great. So I'm going to get a single terabyte drive, or a single 3 terabyte drive, and support all those users. Well, what if we have 100,000 users? In fact, I'm interested. How many users does Dropbox have? A 100 million users. This is Dropbox announced in November 2012. They announced they had over 100 million users.
That's a lot of storage.
Okay. So 100 million users, and probably there's I'm guessing a fairly small percentage of them that aren't on free, relatively speaking. But let's just say they were all on free space. So that's 100. Is that a million? It's 100,000. That's a million, right? It's 10 million. That's 100 million. Yep. Times 2 gigabytes divided by 1,024. So we need 195,312 terabytes divided by 3. So we need 65,104 3-terabyte drives. How much is a 3-terabyte drive? $150?
Yeah, good call.
So, startup capital, we need $9,765,625 in hard drives. So if we were starting Dropbox today, and we had all their users, we would need almost $10 million day one just to buy hard drives. Okay, so I have, whatever it was, 65,000 hard drives laying around. So we have 100 million. Is that it? 100,000, yeah. We have 100 million users. So we have 65,000 3-terabyte hard drives purchased at $10 million. We're buying them in bulk. We probably can save $1 million. Something. Pretty sure if you went to Seagate or Western Digital and you were buying a super pallet of 65,000 hard drives, they're probably going to cut you a quantity discount. Okay, so we just bought a bunch of hard drives. I have 65,000 hard drives just got delivered to my warehouse. What do I do with those?
Hook them up.
You have to connect them all together.
How many of you have built a computer before? Okay, so modernly your hard drives are probably serial ATA hard drives, right? Okay, how many hard drives can you put in a single computer? What's the most you've seen? 5 or 6. So you're limited by a couple of different things. You're limited by A, the number of serial ATA ports you have, right? Because you can't daisy chain them. Serial ATA isn't a daisy chain technology. So you could have as many hard drives as you have serial ATA ports. Then you're quasi-limited by the space that your tower has for putting in hard drives, although nothing really says that you can't leave the side door off and just have these hard drives dangling out. So let's just say we went crazy and you wanted to the goal was to make a YouTube video. This would actually be kind of a funny, geeky video thing to make, of a single computer that had the most serial ATA hard drives hooked up to it. So what you would do is you'd find the motherboard that has the most serial ATA ports on it. Then, well, you need to find the correct balance. You need to have a hard drive, a motherboard that has lots of serial ATA ports, but also lots of expansion PCI Express ports for you to put serial ATA expansion cards. So let's say you can get 8 serial ATA expansion cards, and maybe each one of those has 6 serial ATA slots. Okay, so we're at 48 plus, let's say, another 6, 54. We'll round up. Yeah. Assuming we have a strong enough power supply, we might be able to get 60 hard drives technically running off of a single computer. And it's something that would be interesting is I wonder how Windows or Mac would handle 60 unique hard drives. I mean, like, does it die? At the same time, how does your file manager handle that much? I mean, at this point, you're like, it's like a joke, you know? It's like, look, we didn't code for this. We were not expecting to have to deal with 60 individual hard drives. Okay, so anyways, in a best case scenario, we're saying we can put 60 hard drives together in a single machine. But we got 65,000 hard drives, Skippy. Now, we're already questioning how our operating system is going to be able to deal with 60 hard drives. How does it assign those different drive letters and things like that, right? But on top of that, let's go back to the Dropbox problem. We have 100 million users. And each of those users has 2 gigabytes of quota, 2 gigabytes of disk space. Well, how do we keep track of where files are stored? Go ahead.
I was reading something on here, and it said the theory is you're only allowed to have 24 maximum hard drives because it can only use the letters C through Z.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable theory. That would be on the Windows side.
Yeah.
Macintosh lets you name your volumes like Macintosh hard drive, stuff like that. So maybe you'd have some more flexibility, but who knows? Who knows what would happen? Is it size of int? Number of hard drives or something like that. Okay, but in any case, do you think that Dropbox has 65,000 drive letters? And, you know, as soon as they run out of space on one drive, they just shift the next user over to the next one? What happens if there's 1.5 gigabytes of space left on the latest hard drive and Voltage comes and signs up for Dropbox for his 2 gigabyte limit? Are they just going to throw him on the new drive? We don't have 2 gigabytes to give you on this drive. You think that's likely the way it works? Or do you think that whatever the solution is, they probably try to maximize efficiency for usage of space? Now, we already talked about RAID a little bit. And one of the things that RAIDs let you do is have multiple drives kind of concatenated together. So 3 terabyte drives could become logically a single 9 terabyte drive. That's possible. Okay, so for those of you who have can hook up 6 3 terabyte drives in your computer, and the biggest drive you can find is a 3 terabyte drive, let's say, you can have a single 18 terabyte hard drive, logically. So inside your computer, when you go into your C drive, you would show that you have a 16 terabyte hard drive, even though behind the scenes there are 3 drives magically connected together in such a way that has a file system that spans those 3 drives somehow in order to store stuff across the 3. Does that make sense? Because remember, file systems come back to file organization. Well, now we have 65,000 drives. Now we actually have 2 different levels of issues here. This is for 100 million users who each have 2 gigabytes without any data backup. So Dropbox just crossing their fingers. Like, well, look, they're not paying. So if I drop a file here and there, no biggie, right? But Skippy's not happy with that. Skippy's like, look, I spent valuable time setting up my free Dropbox account. I expect 100% uptime. I expect them not to lose my data. Right? Aren't those accurate expectations?
Yeah.
For no good reason. There isn't one logical reason that says you should expect them to do a thing for you for free. Yet we do.
Agreed.
Okay? So, what do you think exists? How do we solve this problem? If you're Dropbox and you're trying to figure out how do I support 100 million users who each have 2 gigabytes of disk space that I'm allotting to them, and they're giving me no money, So we'll just start off by saying money's not the problem. You have a illegal printing press in the basement. So you're able to supply yourself with questionable cash. What do you think exists to solve this problem? It's certainly not done the way that we have built computers, right? They probably don't just have thousands of computers laying around with 60 hard drives daisy chained together, each one set up in a RAID, and then all of those set up in a RAID and all that stuff. That's probably not how it works. Somebody's probably built a machine. They're usually called storage arrays. It's essentially a big box-looking computer thingy, but all you do is plug hard drives into it. Okay? You plug hard drives into it. And it sets up hardware-based RAIDs of some type. So the idea would be that you plug in 50, there's different size storage arrays, but you start getting into expensive ones, you could probably hold 50 hard drives. I'm guessing, but let's just say that's the case. So you plug 50 3 terabyte drives in there, and now you have 150 terabytes of potential storage. And depending, what, are you finding something cool?
It's a picture of it.
Oh, okay. So at least I'm not making it up, right? Okay. Well, that's a bunch of them, daisy chained together. Okay, so each one of these pieces of equipment, let's say they each hold 50 hard drives. And those 50 hard drives could give you a maximum storage of 150 terabytes. So, well, we need 65,000 of those. So now you're going to set up a whole warehouse of these storage arrays. And these arrays are built to be able to connect to each other, so you can daisy chain those together. So you have all the drives kind of working together. Now, some of those storage arrays you're going to use for backup. Some of those storage arrays you're going to use for live data. All those storage arrays are probably going to be set up with some sort of RAID format that's recoverable, because how often do you think Dropbox has hard drives fail? As many hard drives as it seems like they must have going on? A lot. Often. Probably a couple a week, minimum, right? So they probably have extra 3 terabyte, we're assuming they're using 3 terabyte hard drives, but they probably have extra 3 terabyte hard drives laying around so that when they get a notification from one of those storage arrays that one of the drives has died, what do? They go and grab a drive. All those machines are what are called hot swappable. So they go to the drive that died, pull it out, plug the new drive in. The drive automatically restores itself to its the state it was before, and now it's kicking again. In the meantime, one of the backup arrays picked up the slack, so the end users had no downtime. Does that make sense? Okay, so now you have, so that's how they accomplish it. That's how they accomplish that amount of storage. And then, what about off-site backup? They're probably not going to put all this stuff inside one giant silo. They're probably going to have, a couple different locations in case somebody comes and does a strategic attack on Dropbox headquarters. Which sounds funny, but an attack on some of data storage places like that would probably be some of the most devastating types of attacks. If somebody brought down Google, strategically struck all of their data storages at the same time.
What do you get out of that? Anything? Just for fun, satisfaction.
Well, so think about it from a virus writer's perspective. It's not so much that you're walking away with data. It's that you disrupted society. Play that out in your head, though.
Well, it seems weird to me. I can see if someone actually gets something like steals credit card information or something.
Oh, no, I'm with you for any sort of person who has ethics, even a little bit of ethics.
They're trying to steal someone's credit card.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, natively, I don't think, most human beings don't get a joy out of destroying society. We have enough problems like, why didn't my DVR record the show? That's what we care about, okay? But there are sick individuals out there that this is how they get their kicks. So, but really think about that from a data. How much does society today rely on data? What happens? There was an interesting show that I think it's still on TV, maybe called Revolution or something like that, where you have a worldwide power outage. What if we didn't have any electricity? No electricity, we'd have no. The data would be gone, right? Or at least not accessible. Whether it's gone or not is a whole different question, but we can't access it. How quickly would that instantaneously affect us?
Everything would be shut down. They can't process
Literally everything.
sales.
Everything.
Yeah, but like you won't be able to communicate with people far away.
Doctors' offices wouldn't know who their patients are. All that stuff's computerized. They do have files, but nobody knows how to read them. They're historic. How up to date are they? These are
Poor because we use our credit card so much.
well, and not just credit cards. Even those of us that are not technological, take grandparents and things like that. They still rely on technology constantly. I don't think any of our gas pumps would work. Who would be able to fill our cars with gas? Imagine that. So if we just go out on a limb and say maybe Google is the largest storer of data in the world. If they're not the largest, they're certainly in the conversation, right? If somebody were to take out all of Google's data, countries have armies. It's not like Google has, anti-aircraft. Well, maybe they do. Who knows? But our gut feel, my gut feeling at least, is that Google does not have anti-aircraft type of, reinforcement artillery for protecting their data stores. They probably have like a fence with a security guard. That's probably what they have, where somebody has to swipe in with some credentials. But I'm guessing if you came through there with a tank, you'd find little resistance. That would be my guess.
Do they have generators?
Well, they might, but if you literally destroy the data center, I'm not saying cut the electricity. You blow it up, and then go blow up all their other data centers. Strategic attack, Friday the 13th style. You guys know where that came from? Have you heard of Friday the 13th? Well, we've all heard of Friday the 13th. Do you know the history behind it? It's actually a Christian-based historical fact. There's a Christian worldview in here. How many of you have heard of the Knights Templar? At least heard of it before? Okay. Way back when, they were a very, very powerful group, and the idea is they protected all these secrets, and the conspiracy theorists wonder if they had some power over the Catholic Church because maybe they knew some stuff that the Catholic Church didn't want to get out in the open or something like that. Whatever. Forget about that side of the story. But so basically, popes for a long time kept giving them free reign. The Knights Templar were probably the most powerful organization on earth. And I don't remember which pope or the exact year, but there was a calculated strike. It was on a Friday the 13th, and the pope gave the order to take out the Knights Templar in a simultaneous attack across Europe. Took them all out at once. And now we call that Friday the 13th. It's supposed to be unlucky. That's the story. That's the history behind it. So it was the Catholic Church military strike. It's kind of a funny thing. So that's a checkpoint, check mark for. Yeah.
2 or 3. I think up to 3.
Bank that. Okay. So in any case, do our file systems change? if we're having to cover multiple hard drives like that? And how so? So right off the bat, I mean, a file system isn't really like that scary of a word, really. But it seems to maybe mean, it seems like it probably means a lot of complex things. When we can simplify it and say a file system is built to organize files on a hard drive. That's the point. Well, now we see that there's plenty of examples where more than one hard drive is going to be necessary. And there's plenty of pieces of equipment that support having multiple hard drives all powered up and connected to each other and things like that. But if we're going to store files on those, whether we're storing it on one hard drive or we're storing it on 5,000 hard drives, there has to be a file system that governs those. How would that file system differ from the file systems that we might have on our Windows machine? So, maybe at the high level I'm asking, how do file systems actually work? What's a hard drive? Maybe start with that question. What is a hard drive? At the high level, we've already defined it. We've said hard drives are things that hold files, right? Mechanical devices, now not so much mechanical, but power, electrical devices that hold data. But what is a hard drive really? If you were out in the wild and you stumbled upon a hard drive, what would it look like? You tripped over it, like, oh, that's a hard drive. How would you know? Besides, let's go back to our procedural versus object-oriented example from your 250 class or 200 class. Remember, we had the telephone laying on the table. It was all wires, and then you had the telephone that was all in the nice telephone package, but you knew the wires were in there, but you didn't care about them. Let's say you stumbled upon the all wires version of the hard drive. You just see a bunch of junk laying around on the ground. And it just happened to have a monitor hooked to it, a computer, and he's like, oh, I could store crap on this pile of crap. What is a hard drive actually? If you were to describe it, if you were walking around inside of the inner workings of a hard drive, what would it look like? Huh? Okay, go less technical. Hard drives are for storing things, right? Okay, so let's say you can store 10,000 things in a hard drive. I'm just throwing a number out there. Now let's take it to real life. If you want to store 10,000 things in some sort of organized way, what do? Okay, first you got to get a space. Okay, so you got your warehouse. Now what? Oh, okay, so tell me more. So you can go the idiotic way. We just start dragging crap in there, right? It's like, oh, look, when I need it, I'll find it. When I say idiotic way, that's a synonym for saying the guy way. Isn't it?
Very true.
I mean, it might be somewhat stereotypical, but I have the feeling that that's how guys typically operate. Because, I'm not the only one who has said this before, but my wife picks stuff up that I've left strewn about, then I can't find it. But if she would have just left it where I left it laying, on the floor in the corner of the bedroom, I know exactly where that is. Okay, so the guy way of organizing stuff is very inefficient. Drag it into the warehouse, and I'll find it when I need it. Make sense? Okay, so we want to come back on Monday. We want to give ourselves a visual picture of what storing things in a hard drive really and what tools do we need to provide ourselves to store things in a hard drive in an organized fashion. So we'll pick up with Thor's warehouse. So I'm kind of afraid of Thor's warehouse. It's like, look, we do have to have the torture center. It's like, okay, so we'll come back on Monday and we'll pick up from there. Don't forget to do your 470 homework.
Why are you looking at me?
I'm wasting my time looking at Dane.